Hello, welcome back to my witch obsession, and in today's video we're going to be going over what Venus in Scorpio will be like for all 12 signs. I have to do this one because this is my Venus return, so I was like, there's no way I'm missing out on this one. So Venus will be in Scorpio from right now when I'm uploading this to November 29th, so pretty much just the whole month of November. So we're just gonna get right into it. Timestamps will be in the description box below, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you at your horoscope. Okay, starting out with Sagittarius rising. Honestly, Sag, I feel like this Venus transit for you will be pretty, how do I say it, like buoyant, because you've had a lot of stuff going on in your 12th house, not to mention that Mercury will be retrograding back into Scorpio around the 19th and then form a conjunction with Venus around the 29th or 28th, somewhere around the end of November. But Venus, the 12th house is about endings, it's about letting things go. It's not an inherently pretty house, and I've just personally noticed that a lot of Sag risings in the past few years have gone through some really nasty falling outages or some very quiet, painful endings with their relationships, especially with like a friendship with like a woman. It's so specific, but I've noticed like every single Sagittarius rising has gone through some shade of that. And, Venus moving through the 12th house, this was probably going to be a very karmic time for you, especially because Venus does rule your 11th house of social networks and friends, as well as your 6th house. And I definitely get the vibe that a secret could be revealed through dreams or through like hidden intuition. Excuse me. Especially because Venus ruling the 6th house, I'll mention this, but the 6th house can deal with enemies and the 12th house can be like hidden enemies. So I feel like a lot of you will be coming to terms with or realizing that somebody is either with or against you in some way, shape, or form. But I think that this will also be a really great time for you all to develop healthier sleeping habits, or for you to get more serious about your sleep schedule in some way, shape, or form. And maybe some of you are doing a lot of subconscious purging. So a lot of you may have very vivid dreams, as I mentioned, or a lot of you may just be like tossing and turning at night or getting random mood swings, especially with Mars now in your 1st house and Mars ruling your 12th house. It may be manifesting in your body, or it may be like you feel some sort of way and then Mars is allowing you to go to the gym, work out, go for a run, go for a walk, or do some jumping jacks or something, and it helps you purge out a lot of these feelings. So there is something about this where you are going through that scorpionic renewal phase. And Venus will be part of a trine with Saturn and Neptune, as well as Jupiter in your 4th, your 8th house. So whatever is going on with like a work situation, your health, your routines, and even something about your social networks, it is impacting your financial situation. It is impacting your sense of intimacy with your social circles, how you feel close to people, and maybe even something revolving around your family and your home. The 12th house combined with the 4th house makes me think of your bedroom, so a lot of you could be investing money into that sector of your life to make it a little bit more comfortable, make it more, just more personalized, or make it somewhere where you can quietly go through change and you can, like release your emotions in there, whether it be you're just ugly crying in your bedroom, or it's just somewhere where you want to retreat after a long day. But I also think that because the 12th house can be about like places of healing, it might be that some of you are traveling somewhere or maybe going somewhere, especially because the sun's in your 12th house and the sun rules your 9th house. And we are going to see a Mercury Cazimi in the middle of the month. So I almost wonder if you are taking a trip somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if it is literally a place of healing, because I noticed that this Jupiter and Chiron square that happened recently has put a lot of Sag rising in a complicated situation. So some of you could be healing from a very big injury. Maybe some of you had kids. Maybe some of you went through something difficult with your health. And then this 12th house transit is you spending time in like a hospital, like an institution, or maybe you're going to therapy or something like that. Or maybe there's somebody else that is going through something of this nature and you're visiting them, So a lot of stuff could be happening behind the scenes, but I just want to say, Sagittarius, really take advantage of this Venus transit, because even though Venus hates being in Scorpio and the 12th house is also not an inherently pretty house, Venus does not mind the 12th house compared to other houses. So I think that this is just a huge opportunity for a lot of you all to do a lot of healing and to receive a lot of grace for the things that you've probably witnessed and gone through emotionally in these past few weeks because of Mars. So reach out to people and, you know, delve into routines that will kindle support. And I think that this will do wonders for your money matters. It'll do wonders for your sense of home, your sense of belonging, and grounding yourself in some way, shape, or form through the little things. But yeah, that's what I see for Venus and Scorpio for Sagittarius rising. So thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you later. So now we're at Aries rising. So hi, Aries. If you're seeing this, this will be what Venus and Scorpio could be bringing for you. And Venus will be in Scorpio from right now when I'm uploading this to November 29th. And Venus is moving through your 8th house, which is definitely a double whammy because Venus is very uncomfortable in Scorpio and in the 8th house. And Venus rules your 7th house as well as your 2nd house. So what that tells me is that a lot of you are bringing peace and some sort of balance or some kind of harmony to a very uncomfortable matter. So like an 8th house theme, so like intimacy with others, insurance, taxes, money matters, things that you typically wouldn't want to talk about with other people, whether that just be what you're keeping in the fridge or whether it be what skeletons you have in the closet. You know what I'm saying? There isn't really a specific thing. It could just be that a lot of you are keeping something. And the reason I say this as well is because I've noticed a lot of Aries risings and Aries placements have gotten a lot more peculiar about how they communicate their emotions and how you verbally express yourself to the people around you. And I think that because your 7th house ruler is now going into the 8th house, the 8th house doesn't aspect your ascendant. So a lot of you may be very confused, or it may be a little bit difficult to reach out to partners, or it may be very difficult for you to kind of associate in your relationships without a little bit of like a scorpionic theme. So like this kind of gives me like trauma bonding. This gives me, you know, like being touchy and intimate with people as a means of connection. And I just want to say that Scorpio can sometimes struggle to use its words, and I highly recommend that when you are feeling deep feelings, that you write it down, or that you scribe it out first, and that you take a second to feel with it, because Scorpio can struggle with projection, and a lot of you may deal with that from other people, or you may deal with that yourself where you're projecting onto others, whether it just be good things or whether it be more, you know, traumatic experiences. So it's really important that this Venus transit, you embrace it and you will take control of it by deciding how you express your emotions to other people, as opposed to letting it grab onto you and controlling your relationships through codependency and unhealthy projections. But aside from that, I also think that because Mercury will retrograde back into this house, and Mercury rules your 3rd house as well as your 6th house, a lot of you could be sorting out some financial matters, especially when it comes to like appliances, cars, work matters. So it's like if you're trying to get unemployment, or if you have like an issue with like a payout or like a work benefit thing and it's directly linked to money, I would imagine that especially near the end of November, when Venus and Mercury do come into their conjunction, this will be an opportunity for a lot of you to be like, okay, you know, let me like sort out my money matters, or let me refinance this car, or let me buy a new one and then sell this one, you know. So I highly, highly recommend that you do not buy a car in this time period. Buying a car in a Mercury retrograde never ends well. I'm gonna say it again, buying a car during a Mercury retrograde never ends well. The car, I've always noticed, either gets it repoed, it gets really bad damage done to it, something happens to it, there's an issue with the financing, just like the weirdest things happen. So don't say I didn't warn you. But I also think that because Venus rules your 7th house, a lot of you could be having like a very intimate conversation with somebody, or maybe a lot of you could be coming into contact with someone whom you haven't spoken to in a while. I think that the Mercury-Venus conjunction could also bring you money. I think that especially with the trines to planets in your 4th and your 12th house, you know, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, it could bring you some sort of like financial benefit or like a travel matter. So maybe because Jupiter rules your 9th house, this is like receiving money from like a legal case. Maybe this is you getting money funded to you, or like maybe this is something about like traveling, you know, going abroad, and maybe this is you like sorting out the logistics of your routine in order to make that happen, you know, like maybe some of you are trying to hire someone, like maybe some of you are trying to get somebody to take care of a family member, maybe some of you are trying to get a house sitter, a cat sitter, someone to just water the plants while you're gone. But this could also be something about consultations. You know, the 8th house could rule like intimate parts, so maybe some of you are trying to get things done with like your reproductive organs, and so this could be you hitting up like a doctor, a gynecologist, a psychiatrist, or something like that in order to make something happen, especially since your 5th house ruler is in the 8th house and the 5th house is children. So maybe some of you are going through something with like children as well, whether you're trying to have kids, finance kids, or maybe there's something going on with like other people's kids and you're having to deal with them, or maybe you just work with kids or something like that. But whatever the case may be, I definitely get the vibe that the 8th house Venus transit for you will be one where, like I said, it's gonna be a thing where you're elegantly doing very ugly things that maybe you just didn't want to deal with now. Now the time has come, and a lot of you are probably going to have to get down on your hands and knees and put in some elbow grease to get through some things. But I think that this Venus transit, you'll really like it, Aries, because I think that it'll be an opportunity for people to support you, people give you help, you know, whether it be money or like emotional support, and it will be a situation where you're able to move through things and get it done and be like, oh, finally, that's off my chest. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Aries. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I will see you soon. Okay, so we're at Taurus rising. So hi, Taurus. If you're seeing this, this will be your vibe check for Venus in Scorpio. Venus will be in Scorpio from right now until November 29th, around that threshold. I know it's just like the entirety of November, but I have you say Venus likes being in the 7th house, but Venus don't like being in Scorpio, and Venus is your chart ruler, so where Venus is where you are. So I definitely think that in the 7th house, a lot of you are caught up in 7th house themes, so relationships, other people, legal affairs, and overall just trying to balance things out. So, you know, like 7th house, Libra, and Venus also rules your 6th house. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about here, but the first thing that sticks out to me is Scorpionic energy. So obviously Scorpio is about death, transformation, but also things like insurance, taxes. It deals with intimacy with other people, and it can also be obsessed with power. And because Venus rules your 6th house, I kind of get the vibe that a lot of you could be dealing with some kind of a power dynamic in a work situation, or especially with a woman. But I also think that because Venus rules your 6th house, the 6th house makes me think of like acts of services and like doing things for other. Be wary of power dynamics where people are doing nice things for either you or you're doing nice things for other people as a means to control one another, as opposed to doing nice things because you feel like doing nice things. So keep a lookout for that, because I think that a lot of you or some of you could be dealing with something of that nature. I also think that this could be like consultations. So if you work like a client-based business, or if you work something where you go by sales and like you do like commissions and stuff like that, I think that this will be a transit for you that can either be very fruitful or an opportunity for you to kind of like pay off something or like get things done. So Scorpio kind of flips the script in my eyes. So it could be that if you were having booming business this period, you could be like, oh wow, like it's kind of quiet now. Or if you were dealing with like quiet and like no one's really pulling up, now suddenly people could just be like coming towards you. So aside from that, I also want to say that Mercury will be stationing retrograde soon on the 9th, and it will go back into Scorpio on the 19th. And it will come into a conjunction with Venus near the end of the month, so like 28th, 29th. And is there even 29 days in November? I don't remember. But Mercury rules your 2nd house as well as your 5th house. So definitely romantic affairs could be reaching out to you again. And it could be through like a work situation. So like this is kind of specific, but imagine you run a client-based business. It could be that one of your clients ends up being like an ex-situationship and you're like, You know, don't quote me on that, but I am saying that that is a possibility for some of you. And I also just kind of see this as like a financial compensation. Again, I've been noticing quite a few Taurus risings have been tangled up in like a situation where money is either owed to them or they owe money and you're trying to sort it out and the situation won't work out for you. So you could be receiving some kind of news about that in this upcoming Venus transit. And especially as the month progresses, because Mercury will form a few conjunctions. It will form a conjunction with Mars in the 8th house and the Sun in your 7th house and Venus. So it'll be on the 12th, it'll be on the 20th and the 25th. So something like that. So I definitely think that this month will bring you a lot of news when it comes to your money situation, but also romantic situation. So I think that this will just be like, that's the best way to say it, like a clarifying situation. But because Mercury also rules your 5th house, this could also be something revolving around your children, or this could be something revolving around self-expression, fun, and being a little bit more romantic. So it's like, if you are in a relationship, this transit could be a situation where you're like, you know what, like, let's bring it back, you know, let's go on a date, or, you know, let's do things, you know, like a little bit spicy again, and let's have a little bit of fun, you know. So it could be something of that nature. But overall, I think that your chart ruler moving through the 7th house puts a lot of emphasis on other people, how you're interacting with them, and probably adopting a little bit more of a psychological mindset with others. So I almost wonder if some of you are literally getting like a psychiatrist, or, you know, signing up for something of like that nature, especially because on the 20th, we're gonna have a new moon in Scorpio, and the moon rules your 3rd house. So I almost wonder if this is like new beginnings, finding a new therapist, finding a new masseuse, or finding a new consultation, like, you know what I'm saying, like finding someone new, like a new astrologer, new reader, or, you know, just someone who you can consistently hit up in order to help you with something. But yeah, that's what I see for you, Taurus. I thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you soon. So now we're at Gemini rising. So hi Gemini, if you're seeing this, this will be Venus and Scorpio for you. Venus will be in Scorpio from right now, when we're seeing this, up until November 29th, I think. So pretty much the entirety of November. And for you, Venus will be in the 6th house. Girl, Venus does not like being in the 6th house, and she does not like being in Scorpio. I think all of us will have a little bit of an awkward time because Venus is in detriment, but especially for you, the 6th house is particularly uncomfortable for her. And Venus rules your 5th house as well as your 12th house. The first thing I want to say, Gemini, is seeing the 5th house ruler in the 6th house immediately gives me the vibe that it's like you deny yourself pleasure, or you deny yourself good feelings, or you might start to come up with a lot of inhibitions. And what I mean by that is, this is so specific, but say you buy your favorite TV dinner and you get it home, and then you're like, nah, I gotta eat it when it's like perfect, you know, when it's the perfect moment. So you might save that pleasure for later, and you might just procrastinate, you know. You're like, oh, I'll clean the whole house and then I'll eat that TV dinner and I'll put on my favorite show. And then you clean the whole house and you're like, no, I still don't feel like I deserve it. So I'm just gonna keep doing stuff where and then you forget, you know. Like, I think that Venus in the 6th house, or Venus in Virgo, can really struggle with stuff like that. So I just want to say that you want to take care of that in these next few weeks here, and make sure to reward yourself for things and to stay on top of it. I also want to say that Scorpio in the 6th house can be very intense with your routine. So be careful of burning yourself out very quickly, or doing things in excess with like your work and your labor. So it's like, oh, like, let me go to the grocery store today, and then I'm gonna do this and that, and, you know, it's just a lot of things can be piled on. And because Venus rules your 12th house, you really want to take care of your health, or especially your sleep schedule, and make sure you're getting plenty of rest and alone time to decompress. I also want to mention that because the 12th house rules in the 6th house, a lot of you could be consulting like a doctor, or some of you could be seeking out a service. You know, Venus rules your 5th house, so maybe this could be related to having children, or maybe this could be something about your kids. So maybe this is you taking a kid, or like, you know, this doesn't even have to be your kid, you know, because I've noticed a lot of Gemini placements, especially Gemini risings, y'all have been going through things with your siblings and your relatives. And because the sun is also in the 6th house and the sun rules your 3rd house, maybe this is like you're taking your nieces or your nephews, or maybe you're babysitting, or maybe you're just taking them to like, what's the pediatrician or something like that could be going on. Especially because Mercury will start its retrograde cycle, your chart ruler, and Mercury will go back into Scorpio on the 19th and then form a conjunction with Venus around the 29th. So this could be a situation where a lot of you are going through something with your relatives and your relationships, because Mercury does rule your 4th house. And because it's the 6th house, I almost wonder if a lot of you are also changing up your home environment, or something about your living situation is going through a change because of a work situation. I think that a work situation or like a career matter could be directly linked to your home situation. So it's like, oh, I'm going to work from home now, or oh, I'm going to have to create a new office or working space to make it a little bit more comfortable. So, and for those of you who aren't working, this could also be that a lot of you are trying to shift up your routines and your health matters and day-to-day cycles in the living situation. You know, if like the time change, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you, at least in the States, we have a time change. So a lot of you could be going through some kind of change with like your day-to-day schedule, and notice that you're having to kind of slow down or change course. And especially because Venus will also come into some trines with Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter in your 2nd and your 10th house. So this could be a lot of you going through like a career change, especially when it comes to like money and like, you know, like agreements. So because Jupiter rules your 7th house, so maybe some of you are like doing your taxes differently, or maybe some of you are going through signatures and documents and regarding like a work or health situation, consultations and whatnot. But again, this could also be something about changes to your reputation and your status. And I think that this Venus transit could be very financial for some of you. Maybe some of you are like wrestling with like a money situation at work, trying to receive compensation or a payout or like insurance or a benefit or something like that. But for others of you, I think that this puts a lot of emphasis on health and finding time in your day-to-day to make time for fun and the relationships that fill up your cup and just enjoying yourself. So the biggest piece of advice that I have for you, Gemini, is don't deny yourself pleasure too much throughout this transit, but also don't overdo it with the pleasure. You know, like don't, you know, only bring pleasure and goodness into your life. Just find some kind of balance between work and play. Okay, that's what I have for you, Gemini. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you soon. Okay, so now we have Cancer rising. So hi, Cancer. I have you say, Cancer, this will be Venus in Scorpio, and Venus will be in Scorpio from right now when you're seeing this up until November 29th. And I have you say, Cancer, I actually really like this Venus transit for you, because Venus loves to be in the 5th house. Venus don't really like being in Scorpio, so I think that all of us will be receiving some sort of like a handicap. But in the 5th house, she does pretty well. So I think that this is one of those things where it's like, she hates what she's doing, but she loves where she's at, you know? That's like you go to your best friend's house in order to do homework, you know? It's giving like, man, I love where I'm at. I'm with my best friend and I'm in a comfortable environment, but I just don't want to be doing homework. You know, that's what it kind of gives. That doesn't have to literally be the situation, but you know, like that's kind of like my analogy. Venus rules your 4th house, and Venus also rules your 11th house. So it very well could be that a lot of you are spending quality time with your strong social network. So maybe especially like a woman, like a friend or someone who you really love. This could be related to like kids, because, you know, 5th house kids. So a lot of you could be working with children in some way, shape or form. But I also see this as like an opportunity. Maybe because Venus rules your 4th house, maybe like someone's coming over or staying with you, and maybe it's you babysitting, maybe it's you taking after kids, and it's just like, you know, your favorite kids and whatnot. So something like that could be happening. Maybe some of y'all babysitting and y'all going to this bougie AF house. You're like, man, I hate these kids, but I love being in this big AF house, you know? So that could be something going on. But The thing that really stuck out to me about this transit is that Venus will come into a trine with Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter's still in your sign, and Jupiter will also be stationing retrograde here in the next few days. And so this definitely seems like a lot of you are working through something of like long distance matters, your beliefs and your philosophies, your perspectives when it comes to your interpersonal relationships and the people whom you associate with, and how these things relate to your sense of joy, your ego, and what you like to do for pleasure and for fun. And especially because we're going to see a new moon in the 5th house for you around the 20th. And this is obviously very important because you're ruled by the moon. There's something going on here with like new beginnings or like a new enterprise when it comes to like a 5th house theme. So again, some of you could be having kids, but for others of you, this could also be that you are going through some sort of like a new beginning or some sort of a shift when it comes to your fun, your creativity. So maybe this could be some of you starting a new hobby. Maybe this could be setting new intentions for your organs and your well-being. You know, Scorpio rules the reproductive organ, so some of you could be trying to sprucing up that area of your body and take care of it more, setting more intentions for that. And, you know, a lot of you could be, you know, moving through things with your home situation. We also, excuse me, by the way, Mercury will also station retrograde on the 9th, and Mercury will move back into Scorpio around the 19th. And Mercury will form a conjunction with Venus around the 29th. Mercury rules your 12th house as well as your 3rd house. So I think that a lot of you could be having some important conversations and maybe having some sort of like a meeting with someone whom you haven't spoken to in a really long time. I almost wonder if this is something about a long lost romantic interest. Maybe this is something about communications with somebody in your neighborhood. Mercury ruling your 3rd house definitely makes me think that maybe some of you are sorting through something when it comes to your neighbors and children. So just take a look out for that. And because Mercury rules your 12th house, I almost wonder if some of you are also just doing a lot of subconscious purging with like a 5th house theme. So for those of you who aren't dealing with the past coming back through your relationships, it could be that a lot of you are finally processing a lot of emotions that you've had in this sector of your life through dreams, through random spurts of emotion, synchronicities, and a lot of you could be feeling a little bit crazy throughout this transit, but I think that ultimately it's an opportunity for you to let go of some of the difficult feelings that you have probably gone through in the past few months. And I think that this new moon in Scorpio will be an opportunity for you to be like, you know what, like this is how I want to have fun. This is what I'm looking for in a partner. This is what I want in my child or how I want to achieve it. But I also think that this could just be you trying to have more fun by staying home, being around the people that you love, being around people who value your ideas, and people who value your sense of intensity when it comes to enjoyment and pleasure. So I think that a lot of you could be seeking out a strong support network throughout this transit, and it's a really good time to do so. So finding people who like the same things as you do. And with your 5th house ruler in the 6th house, maybe this could be related to like routine and health and wellness and, you know, enjoying yourself through the little things. So I think that a lot of you could be looking for people who can exhibit that in order to support you. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Cancer. I also wanted to say, because Jupiter's in your 1st house and Jupiter literally rules your 6th house, so I think that a lot of you could be like looking for like some sort of like a group of like, you know, like, it makes me think of like finding like prenatal yoga groups, or like joining like a workout group or like Pilates or something like that. So, you know, like Mars in the 6th house ruler in the 1st house, you know, doing things to change your appearance, take care of your body, whatnot. Jupiter expands things. So maybe some of you are trying to like get bigger in some way, like gain more muscle or whatnot. Okay, that's all. I'll see you soon. I love you. Okay, so now we have Leo rising. So hi, Leo. Oh my gosh. So this will be Venus and Scorpio for you. And this will be until the end of November, just literally the whole month of November from here on out. And Venus is moving through your 4th house. And I feel like because the 4th house is the lowest point in the chart, this will be a very personal Venus transit for you, especially because Venus rules your 3rd and your 10th house. So I say personal because I have been noticing that a lot of Leo risings have been dealing with drama in their life, or a lot of you have been dealing with like issues with like someone in your life being very obsessive. Like it doesn't have to be a specific person, it could be. And because of that, I just think that because Venus rules your 10th house and she's moving through your 4th house, a lot of you might feel like you're very exposed, or a part of your life is out there for others to see. And maybe this won't be through decision. I have to say, because Venus rules your third house, you really want to be careful with whatever it is that you're saying and the conversations that you're having, or what media you're using. So it's like if you're posting a bunch and you have like a what's it called, like an account that's not your main one, like a spam, not a spam, like a broker account. Is that what they call it? Am I even allowed to say that? But you know, it kind of seems like a lot of you are dealing with something like that. So for others of you, I've just been noticing that a lot of you all have been dealing with issues of like work and like finding jobs, or like finding some sort of like assistance. Maybe some of you are also trying to make consultations. I've been noticing that a lot of Leo risings have been looking to get their hair done, get their nails done, but also maybe something about like health situations. So it's like finding a dentist, finding a chiropractor, finding a dermatologist, whatever it might be. This transit might be a time where you're finding them through like a family friend or through like a connection. So know that this will probably find you as opposed to you finding it. So set the intention and let it come to you, because I don't think that this will be a time where you're looking for that until Venus moves into Capricorn a few months later. And I also want to say that because Venus is just moving through the fourth house, a lot of you could just be decorating. You know, Venus rules your third house too. So this makes me think of like getting new bougie stuff for your home. So it's like getting a new AC system, a new heating system. Maybe you're getting in like a new heater for the winter. Maybe you're getting a new TV. Maybe you're getting new appliances and whatnot. I would say if you are planning to do that, think about it now, but don't actually do it. Wait until Mercury actually stations direct in the next few... Mercury will station direct on the 29th and be in shadow for like a week or two more. So I think that mid-December will be a really, really good time to find something. So I know those Black Friday deals will be tempting, but I'm just warning you right now. Mercury rules your second house, and Mercury retrograding back into the fourth house could definitely bring some sort of like an issue with, or like a confusion or like confuzzlement when it comes to like a rent situation, when it comes to owing money to family members and relatives, and maybe even something about like your social network. So I would just say that this Venus transit has definitely the potential to bring a lot of peace into your personal life, but it also has the potential to really cause even more discourse on top of what you've already been dealing with. But I think that there is someone coming in to assist you or help you. So like maybe like a lawyer, or like some sort of consultant or something like that, an attorney. That could be one of it, but they could also be a doctor, psychiatrist, you know, someone who's helping you through something and you're like paying them for a service. Especially because Venus will also trine Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter. That trine to Saturn specifically sticks out to me because Saturn rules your sixth house. So it's like, this makes me think of like an older person or someone who is a little bit older and strict, and they are helping you move through something. And with the trine to Jupiter, I just think that, especially because Mercury will also come into conjunction with Venus at the end of November, the end of November will bring you a lot of promising news. So definitely, whatever you're going through right now, Leo rising, up until the end of November, just think about things and set intentions, write things down, and feel through the emotions that you're feeling. And then at the end of the month, you'll receive a lot of answers. And I feel like that's a little bit vague, but really right now, I just think that a lot of Leo risings don't actually have that much control over their situation. A lot of you are probably going through some sort of like a waiting game, you know, sitting things out, or kind of having to rely on others to do something for you or be the spokesperson because you can't say that much for whatever reason. And so I think that at the end of the month, there will be a moment where you're able to give your piece or take some sort of action through your words and communication, and also with your money. I also really like this Venus transit because a lot of you could be receiving money or financial assistance from like a family member or through a relative, you know, like maybe you get an envelope full of money, or maybe someone gives you something, or maybe you receive some sort of like a payout from like social media, the internet, or maybe you get some sort of like a financial benefit, or some sort of like a extension on like a debt or something. So I definitely think that something good will come through financially near the end of this month for you, Leo. Anyways, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye. So now we're at Virgo rising. Hello, Virgo. this will be Venus in Scorpio for you, and Venus will be in Scorpio from right now up until the end of the month, around the 29th. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this one, Virgo, because I feel like a lot of Virgo risings have been caught up in a mess in their money situation, especially with the Saturn in your 8th house that happened like a few months ago. I think that a lot of Virgo risings have been left in some sort of distress, or a lot of you have been, like, what's coming, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that this Venus transit for you will be a nice, like, some sort of like a reprieve or something coming through, because Venus rules your 2nd house and Venus rules your 9th house. So it's like through perspective, through money, through some sort of like a belief or a good idea, there will be a good thing coming through in your 3rd house matters. So communication, siblings, relatives, your car, appliances. So I think that something could be coming through, because Venus will come into a trine with Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter later on in the month. So support from like a social network, support from a partner, support from a relationship, support from a way of expressing yourself and having fun. And this could be related to children in some way, because Saturn rules your 5th house. But for others of you, I also think that this could just be related to sorting out financial matter when it comes to like an appliance, or through some sort of like an internet thing. But the reason why I really like this transit for you is because Mercury will be stationing retrograde on the 9th, and then it will go back into Scorpio on the 19th, and it will come into a conjunction with Venus around the 28th, 29th, 25th, I think, somewhere around there. And I really like that for you, honestly, Virgo. I think that it'll bring you some good news. So I think that, especially because you're going to have a new moon in Scorpio around the 20th, if you're looking for a job, or if you're looking to apply for something, get paperwork done, but mind you, Mercury will be in retrograde. So I think that this is something about things that you've been meaning to sort out. So it's like, if you have insurance paperwork that you've been trying to settle, or maybe there has been like a legal matter that you've been trying to deal with, or maybe there's like an application for a job that you never finished. All of those things are a really good thing to do under this transit. I think it's just like a thing where it will be supporting you, and you could receive some sort of like a benefit or some sort of like a sponsorship from it. So maybe this is you being like, oh, like, let me finish this application. Never finished it. I didn't think it would be anything important. And then it brings you like an extra few $100 into your account for whatever reason. If you're trying to look for a therapist, or if you're trying to look for someone who can help you, like an astrologer, a reader, or this could even be something else, I think that this transit could also be an opportunity where you look for someone like that, and then they assist you and then they help you with something. So I think that this will be an opportunity for you to go back on something that you've been meaning to do for a while. I highly recommend you do not buy a car, or you do not spend a bunch of money on like an appliance or a thing like that unless you're repairing it. If you're repairing something, this is a really good transit to do that. So if you have a car and it's like broken down, or if it needs like an oil change, or if it needs to be repaired, sent to the shop, this is a pretty good transit to do something like that. I think it's very much supported. But if you're looking to buy something new in this sector, I highly recommend against it. Don't say I didn't warn you. But aside from all that, because this is the 3rd house and 7th house trines, and 11th house, this could also be a lot of deep conversations with partners, with people who you love, with your friend groups. And I think that this could be an opportunity for a lot of you to become a lot more vulnerable about your beliefs and what you like, and your faith, and also your values and what you feel like is important, So if you're feeling undervalued, or if you're feeling unimportant, I think that this transit will be an opportunity where someone is coming through to listen to you and hear what you have to say and what you have to bring to the conversation in terms of your ideas and what you're feeling. Scorpio, is about trauma. It is about difficulties. It is about the darkness. It is about things that are inherently uncomfortable. And with Mars ruffling your feathers in your 3rd house for these past few weeks, I think that Venus moving into the 3rd house is her trudging through very difficult waters in order to bring some good news or to assist you with something. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, it just kind of seems like around the 20th, I really want a lot of Virgo risings to pay attention, because that's when Mercury officially goes back into Scorpio, and that's also when we're going to see that new moon. So I think that there will be a lot of new beginnings around the 20th, where you're saying something, communicating something, and getting something off your chest in order to feel lighter and to feel transformed and to go through your rising out of the ashes phase through your words. I also feel like this could be a time where maybe some of you are reading a good book, or maybe some of you are indulging in knowledge and taking classes in some way, shape, or form, or just like moving around, traveling. So especially with Mars in your 4th house, and then, you know, your 4th house ruler Jupiter in the 11th house, traveling with friends, traveling with a group, or finding people whom can assist you. And, you know, Venus rules your 9th house, so in the 3rd house, it makes me think of like long car trips and, you know, like moving here, moving there. Maybe this is like a relative coming to stay with you who lives very far away from you as well. So that's what I see for you, Virgo. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. I love you. Okay, so now we're moving on to Libra rising. So hi, Libra. Let me make sure this is fine. If you hear background noise, so sorry. That's my neighbors. They're so loud. But anyways, Venus and Scorpio. Venus will be in Scorpio up until right now, from right now up until the end of November. So literally like the 29th, I think, is when Venus will officially move out of Scorpio. But Venus will move through your 2nd house. And this is a very interesting transit in my eyes. I think that you'll have the most interesting one out of all of us, because Venus rules your 8th house and your chart ruler. And the reason I say this is interesting is because Scorpio is typically associated with the 8th house, but then she's moving through your 2nd house. So this is very, very heavily financially laced here. And I think that this transit for you could be bringing you a lot of financial movement. And I almost wonder if a lot of you are sorting stuff out, because Venus will come into a trine with Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house and Jupiter in your 10th house. So I definitely see this as a lot of you maybe sorting out the financial logistics of a career situation. So like moving around pay stubs, work benefits, financial matters, insurances, if I didn't already say that. I see this as like you get a new job and they require you to fill out a 1099 instead of a W-2, you know? I don't know what the other forms are, but you kind of catch my drift right there, you know, where a lot of you could be sorting out money a little bit differently. Aside from that, I also see this as be careful, because when Venus moves through the 2nd house and Libra, girl, you do not need an excuse for this, but I think that this could bring you a lot of pleasure with spending, because the sun is also in your 2nd house and the sun rules your 11th house. That so makes me think of like shopping trips, going out with people, you know, treating yourself, having fun, especially because your 7th house ruler is in the 3rd house. Mars is in your 3rd house. So a lot of movement and a lot of chit chat. And Mercury will be stationing direct on the 9th, and it will go back into Scorpio on the 19th, and it will come into a conjunction with Venus around the 29th, 28th, like right when Venus is moving out, or maybe it's around the 25th. And I think that this will bring you a lot of news. Mercury rules your 12th house as well as your 9th house. So I think that the beginning of this Venus transit for you is like you're buying stuff, you know, sorting out your money, getting it together. Excuse me. I think it's interesting that Venus will trine Saturn, because Saturn rules your 4th house and Saturn's in your 6th house. So it could be that a lot of you are sorting out a work situation, because I've noticed that a lot of Libra risings have been underpaid for some reason, or a lot of you have been undervalued in some aspect of your life when it comes to your skill sets. This doesn't have to be just in a career situation. This could be in really any situation where you're not being valued for all that you do and the skill sets that you possess and the compassion that you have. So I think that this transit for you specifically will be a situation where you're able to reorganize your life in some way in order to better put yourself in a position where you're more appreciated. And I feel like this starts with your environment. I almost wonder if some of you are going to change like a work situation, so working from home, or changing up your habits within your family and your living situation. I've just been noticing a lot of Libra risings have been shackled to their family, you know, and I think that a lot of you are maybe kind of going back and forth right now with that. And I also noticed that a lot of Libra risings were dealing with legal matters, you know, so having to consult a lawyer. And I definitely think that with Venus moving through the 2nd house, this could be the payout for all that good stuff. But overall, I just think that the only thing that you need to be wary of is making sure you keep track of things. So it's like keep track of your credit cards, keep track of your money stuff and whatnot. And you know, with the square to Pluto that Venus and Scorpio opened up with, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you have dealt with like overspending, but some of you also could be dealing like, I don't know, like Scorpio And the second house is just kind of like a shady energy. So just like look out for people who are trying to take advantage of you morally, like in any way. So I would just say like value yourself and make sure you stay out of situations where people are depending on you a little bit too much. But overall, I also think that this transit could also bring you some good news regarding your financial matters when it comes to a work situation, especially if this has been a sector where you've been confused about, if you feel like underpaid, or if you're having to do some sort of paperwork or, get something through. Especially with the new moon that we're going to have around the 20th. So you could be making a big investment or buying something, or like money could be coming back to you, or you could just be finding a new source of income in some way, shape, or form. So I definitely think that things are looking very like business and very private for a lot of Libra risings, especially because the second house is an aspect your ascendant. So this is kind of like something that maybe you're having to sort out with other people, or something that you're kind of like keeping very private. So at least like when I say other people, I mean like people who you like keep it hush hush with. So it's like a consultant or somebody who you're working with one-on-one. But aside from all that, I think that this Venus transit for you has an opportunity for you to completely change when it comes to how you feel good about yourself and how you feel secure within your relationships through intimacy. It's like operating from a place of feeling connected to people as opposed to building connection off trauma and dependence. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Libra. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you later. Okay, so now we're moving on to Scorpio rising. So, hi Scorpio. If you're seeing this, I don't know why the lighting looks like that in here, but we are doing Venus in Scorpio. So Venus will be in Scorpio from right now, you're watching this, until November 29th. And honestly, Scorpio, I actually think you're gonna have a really, really nice Venus in Scorpio transit. Because Venus is moving through your first house, so something is being pronounced. But I do want to say, be wary, because Venus rules your 12th house, so something that you can't see about yourself will be very, very apparent to others. And it's related to like a 12th house theme. So it's like the 12th house makes me think of isolation, loneliness, addiction, psychosis. It makes me think of dreams. It makes me think of your emotions, your deeper feelings, the ones that are hidden. And your 12th house is ruled by Libra, and Venus also rules your 7th house. So very much related to your interpersonal relationships, your sense of justice and balance, and your opinions on these things. And moving into the first house, the most obvious house in the chart, because this is what someone sees in front of you, it just makes me think that a lot of you could be dealing with situations where people are seeing you in a different light, or you're very visibly going through some sort of change and you are letting something go within your identity and your essence. And especially because Venus will, backtrack, because Mercury will station retrograde on the 9th, and it will go back into Scorpio on the 19th, and it will come into a conjunction with Venus around the 25th. Mercury rules your 11th house and your 8th house. So with your 11th and your 7th house ruler being involved in this, it definitely feels like a lot of you are going through something within your connections. And this could be very literal for some of you, like maybe a partner is coming back into your life, or maybe someone is coming back to speak to you, and maybe you're having a conversation, or you're hearing about something from somebody from very long ago. That could be a manifestation. But because Venus also rules your 12th house, it could be that a lot of you are having interesting dreams about people, or a lot of you could be feeling very isolated. And I think that this is just kind of all signifiers that you're going through that subconscious purging, and you are working through a lot of unresolved emotions that have remained pretty much underground up until this point when it comes to other people, because you've kept them repressed for whatever reason. And the nice thing is that Venus will also form a trine with Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune in your 5th and your 9th house. So support from long distance partners, support from mentors, support from people who inspire you, people who like you, people who share the same values as you. And I feel like this Venus transit, even though the way that I'm describing it, I feel like it comes off as like it's very uncomfortable and like out of your control, which it very much could be. And a lot of you could be dealing with projection from other people in your life. But in that case, really pay attention to your feelings, because I think that with Venus trining Saturn specifically, and Saturn rules your 3rd house, this is like conversations, especially with like therapists, psychiatrists, you know, healers and people whom you can speak to. Maybe an older relative who is very wise, so like an aunt or an uncle who is older, and maybe they've just like seen things and like this is like a piece of knowledge for you, you know. You speak to your aunt and she's like what, like 70, and she's like, I don't know why she'd be 70, but maybe she's 70, and she's like, don't do what I did, you know, like live life and move on. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense, auntie, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of you could be dealing with something like that. I also think that because Venus will trine planets in your 5th house, it seems like a lot of you are wanting to embrace fun and pleasure and enjoyment in your life more. Because Neptune's involved, I almost wonder if some of you all are trying to have fun through like water, or like through watery or like Piscean themes. Just be careful if you are planning to, you know, like consume substances and whatnot. I think that this Venus transit can cause you like take things too far. But I think that for a lot of you, you're overcoming some sort of like a substance issue. So if you've been struggling with addiction, I think that this transit's for like a very good time for you to heal and recover from that. This could also be related to your children if you have any, or if you're wanting to have kids. I think that Venus trining Saturn is like a really good time to hit up like a gynecologist or the doctor in order to see what you can do about having children and what you're capable of, what you can do and whatnot. But I do want to say that a lot of you could also be sorting out money stuff. So I definitely think that with Venus ruling your 7th house and Venus coming into conjunction with Mercury, your 8th house ruler, maybe some of you are receiving news about like a legal matter or something about money that is owed to you, or maybe some of you are sorting out like a financial matter, and it could be related to like digital. So it's like something about like the internet and like something you're taking action for. So a lot of you could be creating a stream of income, or a lot of you could be moving around money between you and other people who are around you. So that could be significant. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Scorpio. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you later. Okay, now we've got Capricorn rising. So hello, Capricorn. This will be Venus and Scorpio for you. So from right now, when you're watching this, to November 29th is when Venus will be moving through Scorpio. And Venus is moving through your 11th house. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that this is a pretty fortuitous transit for you. 11th house is opportunities. Venus and Scorpio. Scorpio is other people's money. So like, this is like a very specific message, but if you're trying to start a project that requires like donations from people, or if you're trying to get like some sort of financial aid from like a foundation or something, like it makes me think of like if you're going to school in the States, and this is like a very good transit to apply for FAFSA. This is a good transit to apply for loans. This is a good transit to apply for money from other people. Keep all your receipts because Mercury will also be retrograding in this house a little bit. So you really don't want to get snagged, but I think that for what it's worth, this is a pretty good transit for you to look for people who may be interested in supporting you in some sort of endeavor through their money and through their support, or maybe even through their stories, because Scorpio can rule trauma. So this makes me think of like getting together in like a circle and people sharing their stories to like contribute something. So it doesn't really matter what it is. The 11th house is just about where you're on common ground with other people, you know? So it's like you watching this video right now and being like, oh, I really like astrology. And I'm like, I really like astrology. And what we're doing right now is very 11th house. So very much that theme where you are getting together with some sort of community, or being around people in environments where the things that you care about and things that you like are shared amongst others around you. Especially because Venus also rules your 10th house and your 5th house. So it's like common ground through 5th house themes, like gambling, having fun, enjoyment, children, things you like, what makes you happy. And the 10th house, your career, your status, your reputation. This kind of gives like socialite vibes, where maybe some of you are meeting people and being around people because like you look good with them and they look good with you. Like, not to say like, you know, like maybe that's like a little bit shallow, but like you as a Capricorn rising, like you know what needs to be done in order for you to have good graces with the things that you're trying to achieve, you know? So that could very much be the case for some of you. The 10th house also makes me think of parents. So maybe this is like you like bonding with a parent over like common ground or something like that. Maybe this is you having an important conversation with them. But I think that Venus moving through the 11th house, your 5th house ruler in the 11th house, this could also be a lot of events, parties, gatherings, celebrations, ceremonies. So a lot of you could be attending something like that as well. And back to the Mercury retrograde, because Mercury will station retrograde on the 9th, and it will go back into Scorpio on the 19th. And it will actually come into a conjunction with Venus right around the 25th, or 29th, around there. And pretty interesting, Mercury rules your 6th house as well as your 8th house, or no, excuse me, your 9th house. So connections through traveling, connections through school. So if you're in college, this could be an opportunity for you to make friends in a college setting. But it also seems like because Mercury rules the 9th house, maybe this is something about like common ideas through faith. So maybe this is like you meeting up with people and, you know, you congregating with them based on your beliefs and your perspectives on certain things. And Mercury, you know, I feel like a lot of you could be bonding with people through wellness and through shared ideas. And overall, that's really what it is, you know, like finding opportunity through bonding with others who have the same values as you and, you know, having the same perspectives as you. I also think that this could be like a great time to make friends. This could be a huge, huge emphasis on a girlfriend in your life, you know, like a woman who is around you. Like Venus in the 11th house, like definitely signifies like a divine feminine energy looking over you, watching over you in some way, shape, or form. I think that especially with Mars having moved through Scorpio in the past few weeks, maybe some of you have dealt with a lot of discourse or some kind of conflict when it comes to your friend groups, and it could be related to your personal life, your home, your family, and how this interacts with your social life may have caused a little bit of friction in your life. And I think that Venus moving through the 11th house now is an opportunity for you to sort through that and be like, you know what, like let's take care of this. Especially when it comes to your secret desires for attention, because the sun's in this house and the sun rules your 8th house. So it's like, I think that a lot of you could be receiving some sort of recognition, or people are appreciating you more or giving you some sort of attention that you very much rightfully deserve for something. And I think that this is a great time for you to look for people who can support you. But yeah, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. And Venus will also trine Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter, your 7th and your 3rd house. Really, really nice transit. I think that great time to look for like therapists, you know, consultations, or maybe this is you also communicating, talking to people, moving around, driving, seeing the people that you care about. You know, this makes me think of like late night drives. It makes me think of staying out late. It makes me think of building a fort with your siblings. It makes me think of cozy time with your partners and those that you love. You know, Venus trining Jupiter, specifically Jupiter in your 7th house, but Jupiter rules your 12th house. A lot of subconscious purging, so a lot of interesting dreams and letting go of emotions and unhealthy habits within your relationships. This Jupiter transit for you has probably been kind of like, like a little bit kind of intangible, but I think that this Venus transit will bring you some sort of opportunity or some kind of like vision or an idea or a dream that you have when it comes to your partners and how that relates to your social circles. I know will push you forward. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Capricorn. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you soon. Okay, now we have Aquarius rising. So sorry if I burp because I just ate a granola bar. I was so hungry. I was not gonna make it. It wasn't gonna happen. Anyways, so Venus in Scorpio. Venus will be in Scorpio from right now when you're watching this up until November 29th. And Venus is moving through your 10th house for you, which is a pretty exposed transit. You know, the 10th house is like where the midheaven would typically be. And Venus rules your 4th house, and it also rules your 9th house. So this is like a very slow and steady kind of movement. You know, like the 10th house to me is very slow. It's very much like you do the work and you reap what you sow. And because Venus rules your 4th house and your 9th house, it seems to be related to your studies, travels, gaining new perspectives, learning new things, learning new skills, mentors. It also rules over, you know, like your 4th house, home, family, the past, your upbringing, your emotional roots and attachments. A pretty interesting transit. Specifically, if you are in school, this could be a transit where you're realizing that people and partners are being very not partners. How do I say? Professors, teachers are being very strict with you, and particularly psychological. I totally wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you are going to school or learning more about psychology or the occult. So it's like Scorpio can be like tarot, astrology, things like that. So a lot of you could be delving into that. And Venus usually can deal with materials and stuff. So it makes me think maybe a lot of you are buying crystals and whatnot. A lot of us could be doing that throughout this transit. But two things really stick out to me about this particular transit because Venus will, one, come into a trine with Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter. And this is between your 6th and your 2nd house. And this is very interesting because the 6th and the 2nd house both don't aspect your ascendant, but the 10th house does. So it kind of seems like you're working through something when it comes to like your routine and your health and getting more serious about your sense of wellness, especially with the trine of Saturn, because Saturn's your chart ruler, so it rules your body, but it also has rulership over your 12th house, so intangible dreams, so subconscious purging. And it kind of seems like a lot of you are trying to incorporate this into your reputation more, being more serious about, you know, advocating for wellness, advocating for change and transformation, and to people speak out about things. I've noticed that a lot of Aquarius risings with Pluto in your 1st house, you all have gotten very serious about being vocal and very obvious about the difficult, more taboo parts of our society and our life, you know, like taboo being, you know, like intimacy, you know, things happening to you that you don't want to happen to you and shouldn't have to happen to you, you know, without consent. Also like psychological themes, money, debt, insurance, pain, suffering, all these scorpionic themes that people typically wouldn't want to talk about. And it could even be a little bit gothic by nature, you know, Aquarius. And I think that with Venus moving through your 10th house, this is an opportunity for you to showcase and, you know, really put on a show for yourself or maybe the people around you through services, through wellness, and doing the little things that count in order to bring about change and healing. And something about this transit is very cathartic in my eyes for you, because it kind of seems like you are advocating for something more and wanting to teach, you know, Venus ruling your 9th house. So it's like, I almost wonder if some of you are skipping the mentorship and becoming the mentor, you know, where maybe you're stepping on a podium or a platform or something in order to educate others, in order to assist others through your own experiences, through your own pain, or maybe through other people's pain. But I definitely think that with Venus trining Saturn in your 2nd house, there's something very personal about this transit for you, or there's something about it where integrating a personal aspect of your life when it comes to your values. And, you know, Saturn in Pisces is about like your values when it comes to religion, spirituality, self-undoing, addiction, but also maybe something about like the intangible. I just had a thought and I completely forgot. Like isolation, feeling alone, you know, broadcasting that in some way, shape, or form. But on a more literal sense, I think that this is also just you setting small and very meaningful intentions when it comes to wellness, and also saving up money and building up self-worth. Mercury will also station retrograde on the 9th and go back into Scorpio on the 19th and come into a conjunction with Venus on the 25th. So definitely some sort of news. You know, Mercury rules your 5th house as well as your 8th house. So news when it comes to fun, creativity, self-expression, gambling, taking risks, and also maybe something about like I said, like intimacy and like wellness. And this could be somehow incorporated in your status right now. But this is like a really good time to like express yourself and put things out there and put yourself out there if you are looking to, you know, gain attention, you know, be respected and people just like be around you, you know. It's like, but overall, I also think that this is a lot of news and a lot of information and a lot of ideas when it comes to the career front of your life. So overall, I just think that this Venus transit for you, Aquarius, will be a very slow and steady one where you are peeling off the skin that you're shedding bit by bit, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter. But do take your time, because I think that when you get out of it, you'll be feeling very refreshed and very renewed, and like you have a clear sense of what goals you want to embark in versus what you want to let go of. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you later. All right, last but not least, we have Pisces. So hi Pisces, Pisces rising. So Venus and Scorpio. Venus will be in Scorpio up until right now when you're seeing this, until November 29th. So pretty much the entirety of this month. And Venus is moving through your 9th house. Excuse me, a pretty fun transit in my eyes. I really like when Venus is in Sagittarius or the 9th house. It just signifies a lot of movement, a lot of travel, a lot of optimism, seeing everything as an experience, you know, and it's like easier to develop a more positive outlook on things. And it just makes me think of like your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and then instead of like crying about it, you're like, you know what? everything happens for a reason, and I'm just like meant to be here, and I'm right where the universe wants me. You know what I'm saying? So definitely embracing a mindset like that or a perspective like that will be very, very healthy for you, and it will bring about massive change in your life, especially because Venus will come into trines with Saturn and Neptune as well as Jupiter. I think that a lot of Pisces risings have felt a little bit more buoyant, or a lot of you have felt a little bit more uplifted. Not saying that your life is going, you know, just like perfectly dandy right now, but I am saying that after what's happened in the past few months, this is kind of like a nice little opportunity for you to develop a new perspective on everything that's happened to you or for you. And especially the trine to Jupiter in your 5th house, so like expansion and perspectives on enjoyment, having fun, and finding joy in the little things. You know, with the trine to Saturn, Saturn ruling your 11th house, and Jupiter ruling your 10th house, it kind of seems like the things that are not as enjoyable are suddenly becoming a little bit more fun for you, or you're finding ways to have fun with them. So it's like finding common ideas of people, finding people who share the same goals as you, doing the little bit by little bit hard work that goes into achieving your goals and your success and your dreams. You know, it's like maybe a lot of you can be like head in the clouds where you're like, man, I don't want to do all the tiny bits of effort that goes into this, but suddenly with this transit, there's an opportunity for you to develop a new mindset that will allow you to achieve it with a little bit more grace. Especially since Venus rules your 8th house and your 3rd house. So it's like, this makes me think of like, you know, 3rd house is social media, the internet, learning new things, early experiences, consultations with like therapists, you know, especially because Venus is in Scorpio and she's your 3rd house ruler. So it's like, that makes me think of like psychologists, psychiatrists, you know, tarot readers, astrologers, and whatnot, the people who work with the more intangible. Scorpio also rules the reproductive organs, so I almost wonder if this could be for some of you related to having children, especially with the trine to Jupiter in your 5th house. So this could be you hitting up the gynecologist or a doctor or something like that in order to test you out. Scorpio also rules like the bodily fluids and, you know, your reproductive organs and whatnot, like body chemistry and hormones. So maybe this is you hitting up somebody in order to heal that part of your body as well. And I especially think that with Venus trining your 11th house ruler Saturn, an older person or like an older friend could be bringing you some kind of benefit. But I also see this as like, you have to kind of get chop with it when it comes to finding people who share the same ideas as you know, like finding people who have harsh delivery and finding people who will give it to you straight instead of like playing around with you, you know what I'm saying? Because like you very much need that as a Pisces placement. But another thing that really sticks out to me is that Mercury will be stationing retrograde on the 9th and it will move back into Scorpio on the 19th. And Mercury rules your 7th house as well as your 4th house. So especially that 4th house rulership, the past and your emotional attachments could be really coming up, and it could be coming up through people or like concepts and ideas. I wouldn't be surprised if traveling will be significant when it comes to like long distance matters and old partners. So it's like maybe you're traveling to go see an ex, or an ex is traveling to come see you. That could be very significant. The 9th house can also be about in-laws or extended family. So maybe you're seeing extended family whom you haven't spoken to in a very long time. And very specifically for some of you as well, because Venus rules the 8th house and is in your 9th house, this could also be like financing property matters, or maybe this is something about sorting out money when it comes to your in-laws and property affairs. So it's like if you're trying to buy a property, or if you're going back and forth with the court or like a legal system in order to, you know, get something back scorpionically. So it's like, you know, your dignity, your emotions, your sense of satisfaction, vengeance, even for some of you, that's your business, not mine. Or money, a payout, or something that you are owed or need to pay off yourself. So I definitely think that this will be a great opportunity for you to deal with that stuff and sort it out, especially because Venus is trining your ascendant, so the energies are a little bit more harmonious, and as you set the intention, it will just kind of occur a little bit more organically, maybe a little bit too organically to where it's like you can't really control it. But you know, I think that with Mercury coming back into Scorpio, I think that there will be something coming up of like conversations with family and the past, and maybe something about like a home ownership and whatnot, especially if there's something going on with like wills or like money and deeds being left to somebody else, whether it be you or another person. And overall, I just feel like Venus and Scorpio will just be like a very intense transit when it comes to your beliefs and your philosophies and your outlook on your life. You're getting a lot more serious about it, and this is causing you to seek out people who share that intensity with you. Anyways, that's what I have for you, Pisces. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you soon.